Alrighty peeps, it is another Fishing with Viva. Tonight we're going to be using the worm, a little lead head yellow with a red bloodworm, going back to the classics because there's a bit of wind and I don't think a topwater lure is going to cut it. And the update for the day, Judge Juan Marchand in the New York Alvin Bragg felony hush money payment trial has decided that his initial unconstitutional gag order didn't quite go far enough, and after some persistence from totally not corrupt, totally not Soros-funded District Attorney Alvin Bragg, Judge Juan Marchand has amended his prior gag order to make it even more restrictive because Alvin Bragg brought to his attention, you know, Judge, that gag order doesn't prevent Trump from talking about me, you, or your daughter. Won't someone please think of the children, is what Alvin Bragg said to the judge, and the judge said, yeah, I'm gonna think of my child, and modified the third condition of that gag order to now prevent Trump from making statements about the district attorney and his family and the judge and his family, because before that it applied to court staff and their family, but not to the district attorney nor to the judge and his family.
The original gag order compared to the revised gag order, the original, granted to the extent that defendant is directed to refrain from the following. B, making or directing others to make public statements about 1, counsel in the case other than the district attorney, 2, members of the court's staff and the district attorney's staff, or 3, the family members of any counsel or staff member if those statements are made with ... We know the rest of this. And the revised order ordered that the court's order of March 26, 2024 is amended as indicated below. Defendant is directed to refrain from B, making or directing others to make public statements about 1, counsel in the case other than the district attorney, 2, members of the court staff and the district attorney's staff, or 3, the family members of any counsel, staff member, the court, or the district attorney if those statements are made with the intent to materially interfere with ... and you know the rest.
The basis for this is that Trump put out a tweet linking, or I should say a Truth Social post, linking to an article posted in the New York Post about the fact that Judge Juan Marchand's daughter is not just politically active, not just politically connected, but is nothing less than a political activist who works at some Democrat, what do they call them, like promotion companies or whatever, and has been working with none other than Adam Shifty Schiff for Brains McSchiff, who has been also raising money off the Trump prosecution in New York through this very agency at which Judge Juan Marchand's daughter works. Two of the biggest clients are the Some Political Action Committee and Adam Schiff for Brains McSchiff, who has been sending out emails saying Trump is being indicted on felony hush money payment charges in New York. This is a very serious and unprecedented issue. We must raise money off of it. Give to us. When Trump, puts out tweets asking for fundraising, it's gross and disgusting. When Adam Schiff for Brains does it, it's praiseworthy and laudable. So it turns out, as reported by the New York Post, and I forget who the journalist is, but I'll try to loop in some highlights here and read the journalist, give him credit. The daughter works as an activist, as a political Democrat activist, has worked for the Kamala Harris campaign, and is now currently working with Adam Schiff, who's fundraising off of this prosecution.
From the New York Post, Dem clients of daughter of New York judge in Trump hush money trial raised $93 million off the case by John Levine and Rich Calder. The judge's daughter, Lorraine Marchand, is president of Authentic Campaigns, a Chicago-based progressive political consulting firm whose top clients include Representative Adam Schiff, Democrat from California, who was the lead prosecutor in Trump's first impeachment trial, and the Senate Majority PAC, a major party fundraiser. Lauren Marchand, who worked for Vice President Kamala Harris's 2020 presidential campaign as, quote, director of digital persuasion, end quote, has said her father detests politicians using Twitter on apparent reference to Trump. Quote, I've actually had a couple of conversations with my dad recently where he's kind of like, I hate that politicians use Twitter, and like, it's so unprofessional, and that's not how politicians should behave themselves. And I explain, like, yeah, I think there are a lot of instances where it is not used in, like, when our President Trump tweets anything that he thinks, and like, that's not what he should be using it for, end quote. The 34-year-old merchant offered during a podcast appearance in June 2019.
Trump tweets, Truth posts that out, and it links to the article, and in the article is a photograph of the judge's daughter featured prominently. And this is serving as the basis for allegations, accusations, bald-faced lies that Trump is harassing or intimidating the judge's daughter. Because the article links to the photograph, which is in the article, and Trump, by linking that link to the article, is now being accused of putting the judge's daughter on blast. The problem is, there is institutionalized corruption here. Everybody knows it. You got Judge Juan Marchand, who donated $15, I think, to the Biden campaign in 2020. No big deal, nominal. I wouldn't put much stock in that. Of course, I didn't put much stock in Judge Scott McAfee having donated to Fani Willis's campaign, and then he rendered that awful decision, which I think is going to get overturned on appeal. Set that aside. So the judge himself has donated to Biden. The judge's daughter is actively working as an activist, has worked for the Kamala Harris campaign, is working with Adam Schiff for brains. By the way, just refresh everybody's memory. Adam Schiff led the first indictment, the bogus Russia collusion hoax. Came out of those committee hearings and lied to the American people by saying that he had seen hard evidence, smoking gun evidence, of Trump colluding with Russia to influence the 2016 election. He said this to the world, knowing full well that no one could contradict that lie without violating the confidentiality rules of those committee hearings. He's a very, very bad man.
But all I can tell you is, reviewing the evidence that I have, I don't think you can conclude that at all. Far from it.
But you admit it's all you have right now is a circumstantial case.
Actually, no, Chuck. I can tell you that the case is more than that, and I can't go into the particulars, but there is more than circumstantial evidence now. So, again, I think...
So you have seen direct evidence of collusion?
I don't want to go into specifics, but I will say that there is evidence that is not circumstantial and is very much worthy of investigation. So,
does the judge want the world knowing that in addition to him being a totally biased, Trump deranged, syndrome afflicted judge, his daughter's a political activist? Moreover than that, the daughter, according to the New York Post article, admits that she had discussions with her father, and her father expressed his disdain for politicians using Twitter. So you got a politically active daughter, how her father does not like politicians using Twitter, and we know who uses Twitter or used Twitter, but at least uses social media masterfully, that being Trump, and no one's allowed talking about it. Don't talk about Bruno, because if you talk about it, if you highlight the corruption, well, the world might discover the political corruption. Campaigning off a prosecution, like Leticia James did out of New York, like Fani Willis did out of Georgia. Soros-funded DAs, Soros-funded attorney generals spearheading these persecutions. They find their corrupt judges like New York nipple judge Engoron. They find their corrupt judges like Juan Marchand, and they gag the defendants in real time so that the defendants are prevented from waging a defense in the court of public opinion, so that the current leading presidential candidate for the GOP is hand-tied during an election cycle. This is lawfare election interference of the most corrupt order. And now they're going to gag Trump to talk about the daughter, because even referencing matters of fact and matters of political corruption, that's intimidating the judge's family. That's going after the untouchables, the sacred cows, the children who are full-grown adult political operatives. So the judge modified this gag order, and what they're going to do, invariably, what they did with Alex Jones, in the context of a politicized, weaponized lawfare prosecution, civil or criminal, they're going to gag Trump. They're going to try to manufacture some form of violation of the gag order to come down with sanctions like New York nipple judge Engoron did in New York. Ridiculous sanctions, $10,000 a day, 15, just ridiculous sanctions. Or they'll pull like an Alex Jones. Default verdict. Don't think you can get that in a criminal hearing, but foreclosed from defending. Sanctions, jail him. They'll try to jail him. They will try to manufacture some situation of violation of this gag order, which is unconstitutional according to the actual lawyers who have actual brains, who actually get things right, like Alan Dershowitz. Unlike Lawrence Tribe, Harvard professor, who floated that idiotic Article 14, Paragraph 3 disqualification for insurrection and got slapped down 9-0 by the Supreme Court, then comes out and lies about Trump having posted an image of Biden on that tailgate art, hogtied with what looks like a bullet hole in his head. This is what Lawrence Tribe actually put out to Twitter. I challenged him to show me the image that has allegedly Joe Biden on the back of a car with what looks like a bullet hole in his head. There is no such image because it's a lie. Dershowitz said this gag order in its original iteration, unconstitutional. In its further, more stringent iteration, even more unconstitutional. They set up the pretext to pull an Alex Jones on Donald Trump in the context of this rubbish, bogus New York hush money payment. Like they did in the civil fraud case under Engeron, gag him in the context of a politicized prosecution wherein the Attorney General campaigned off the prosecution, raised money off the prosecution, promised that if elected, she would prosecute Trump. Gagged. Can't talk about it. Can't bring it to the awareness of the public, directly or indirectly. I presume that means through surrogates. So this gag order had better get overturned on appeal. The justice system, or the injustice system in New York, is turning into a joke of a corrupt, fascistic, communistic, whatever, totalitarian regime. A joke. A joke to the point where Vladimir Putin is probably watching this and saying, my goodness, you guys got chutzpah out there in New York to do this. Even we wouldn't do this in Russia. Even Kim Jong-un wouldn't do this in North Korea. So they're going to gag him. We're going to see what happens with the appeal. The world will know of the corruption in the Marchand family, because the more they try to gag him, the more they put it on blast. The more they try to go after him with lawfare, the more he rises in the polls. And the more that the Democrats and the apparatus and the rhinos go after the leading candidate in an election season to indict him, try to jail him, try to silence him, the stronger he gets, because everyone is seeing through this rubbish to the point where even the Michael Rappaports of the world are coming around and saying, holy crap, it's gotten bad enough. So that's the latest. Dude, you know what? I don't even want to catch fish. I just want to get out of the house, get a moment of silence. But if I catch a fish, all the better. I'm told my retrieve speed is too fast. But if I go slower, it gets stuck on the bottom and then I lose lures, and I hate that. So we're going to do one more cast after this before I've got to go drive kids around and be a professional chauffeur. And did anybody notice the alligator in the video? Not sure if you did. If I don't catch a fish on this one, I'm going to end the video now. But if you like my stuff, you know what to do. Like, share, subscribe, hit the notification bell, drop a comment in the comment section below. Viva Fry on Rumble, Viva Fry on Twitter, and vivabarneslaw.locals.com for the bestest, most above average community on earth with lawyers, or at least a former lawyer in my case. Barnes is a lawyer who gets it right. All right, that's it. That was our last cast. If you didn't see the alligator, it's right there. Peace out, peeps. Booyah! Can't get the thing there. Boom.